how are you? And hope you're well. Hope you had a great week. I can't believe it's the end of November. I don't know where November went. I blinked and I was like, how come this is 22nd of November this week? But it is, and so November is coming to an end. So today I'm going to be doing something I do at the end of every month, and that is to review the past month or the month that just went in books, just to do a brief review of all of the books that I read in that month. This month of November hasn't been like a massive one for me on the reading front. I read quite less than I would normally do. That's because it's been very busy at work. There's been a lot going on. My kids were at home, so we had to go back to homeschooling for a while because they had issues and the school had to be closed down. So it's been a very full-on month. It's been a full-on month. I think I've shared it a couple of times here that I said I don't want to be talking about wearing busy as a badge of honor, but it's been a month where I've had to actually do a lot. So reading hasn't been as much as I would normally be able to read. I still read, but not as much as I would normally want to. And I'm sharing this because a lot of people think that I read a lot. And there's even something I'm going to share in the next couple of weeks. And I think I'm reviewing my reading strategy. It doesn't sound as fancy as I'm making it sound, but I think I want to review my reading strategy. For the past 2 years, I've been setting myself goals for a certain number of books that I want to read, but I think I want to change that. I want to flip that to something else. I want to have an immersive experience with reading as well. Anyway, let me stop talking too much. I'll share that as it's forming in my brain. It's forming in my head. I'm reflecting on it, and I'll share it as it's fully formed on what I want to do regarding reading next year. But I'll just quickly do a quick browse through of all the books that I read in November. There were just 3. So my pile is very, very slim this time. Very, very slim in November. The first one is George Orwell's Notes on Nationalism. And it's a very tiny book. It's from the Penguin Classic series. And I'm sure a couple of people, most of you who are listening, know who George Orwell is. He was the writer of the very popular book that a lot of people read as a literature text in primary and secondary school, Animal Farm. He also wrote 1984. But apart from that, he wrote a lot of other contemporary essays about a lot of topical issues. Even 1984 and even Animal Farm were a satire about a lot of societal issues. And this book it's the same. He talks about the difference between nationalism and patriotism and some of the evils that can come out of nationalism. And he read this book years ago. And if you think about some of the things that are happening around the world, in America, in the UK, with Brexit, there's a lot of things that he spoke about that are really, really resonating about how the resurgence of nationalism is kind of taking politics and socio-political discourse into very extreme ways. So it's very interesting. If you're someone who likes socio-political discourse, is one that you would like. George Orwell's Notes on Nationalism. And as part of my book club, we're reading Yagi Homegoing. So the other 2 books I read are books that I part of book clubs that I coordinate or run one way or the other. So for my book club bookmark this month, we're reading Yagi Homegoing. So I'm not going to really go into it because we're going to be discussing it in my book club tomorrow. So you're probably going to be seeing this video on Saturday. Tomorrow on Sunday, we're going to be discussing it. And it's a fantastic tale. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm very, very in love with African literature. I'm in love with stories, but this is a masterpiece in storytelling. She took the story it's a story of 2 sisters across 2 continents, across 2 centuries, across their family tree, and it just shows you how things pass on from generation on to generation. It's such a fantastic read. When I started it, I was like, but by the time I got into it, I couldn't drop it. So it's a really good one if you're looking for a really good literature piece to read. Even though you don't read it as part of my book club, you can join my book club to listen about it. Send me a DM and I'll send you the joining details. But you don't have to. Just read it by yourself. It's a really, really good one. And the third and last book that I read this month was The Rules of People by Richard Templar. It was a book that we read as part of my other book club, Chapters Book Club, in a community of women where we choose a book and we read, and it's a really good one. And it's going to be my the one I'm going to critique, because obviously when I do this, I take one, I read some excerpts from it, and then I tell you my thoughts on it. And this particular one it had 100 rules. So it's a book that has 100 rules of people. So the rules of people, I'm sure a couple of people know. I know Richard Templar's The Rules of Management, The Rules of Life. He's written a lot of books about rules. Basically, this book is a manual about emotional intelligence, how to deal with people. The byline talks about when you know there are certain people who are people. I try to think of myself as one. I think I'm a people person, but it allows you to reflect on your interactions with people and why people do things that they do. For me personally, one of the things I really took away from this book is you can't really change people. You can't really dictate how people are going to behave. The only person that you have control over is yourself. And so I'm going to read from Rule 28, where he says, listening is what matters. Yes, I know I just said that talking was what mattered, and now I'm saying listening is what mattered. Don't get picky with me. Haven't you been listening yourself anyway? We've just established that being a teenager is a mass of apparent contradictions, which do actually make sense deep down. So now I'm joining in. Talking and listening are both what matter. And not only with teenagers, as I hope you realize, this rule goes for anyone. You know, sometimes parents can just be like teenagers. They think they know everything. They've been teenagers themselves. They left stuff since then that kids don't understand. They can see the bigger picture. Yep, they're confident they can tell their kids where they're going wrong and what they need to get on in life. But that's not true. Your child isn't the same as you or the same as anyone else. They're growing up in a very different world from the one you were raised in. They have their own unique plans and dreams and strengths and fears and hopes. And you have no idea whatever they're coming from or where they're going, apart from the few snippets of information you can glean from them, if you're listening. Your only hope of understanding your child is to listen to what they're telling you. That doesn't mean pausing until they finish talking and then carry on regardless. It means properly paying attention and taking it on board. If their feelings don't make sense to you, it doesn't mean your child has no sense. It means you haven't managed to understand them yet. So try harder. If your child can see that you're actually making a real effort to see things from their perspective, they'll help you. Maybe not every time, but they want to see things their way, and so by and large, they explain themselves. But only if you listen and adapt to what they're saying. If they know that whatever they say, you'll go back to your usual thing, banging on about how they need to work harder, or how the world doesn't owe them a living, or how they're too young to understand, or how manners cost nothing, or how early bedtimes are important, why should they bother even trying to explain themselves? Why make the effort if it's going to fall on deaf ears? So do your very best to imagine what it must be to be like them, rather than what you want to do if you were in their position yourself. Ask questions that show you really want to get your head around their perspective. You don't have to agree with everything they say or abandon all the rules they don't care for, but understand why they struggle with them. They might have a point, you know. Maybe there's room for compromise or keeping to one rule but allowing them a different freedom in exchange. I felt attacked when I was reading this because, and you know, it's very easy sometimes we forget, you know, how we felt when we were teenagers or how we felt when we were younger. My daughter is 11 now, and you know, she's going through that phase where she kind of thinks that she knows everything, even though she doesn't. But what this really brought to me was, do I actually take the time to listen to what she's saying to me? Am I paying attention? And even though he talked a lot about the relationship between parents and children, I think what I took away is just generally about listening. Are we listening to people? Or are we listening to respond? When someone is talking to you, are you taking the time to understand why they're saying what they're saying? Or if someone is saying something that, or you're talking to someone and it doesn't seem as if your point is coming across, are you taking the time to listen to why it doesn't seem like they're understanding? A couple of years ago, I had this goal. You know, I write hard goals and I write soft goals. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to be able to listen more, because as you can guess, I talk a lot. I'm quite talkative. I'm a bit better now, you know, I'm a bit calm. I have quiet times, but I can talk a lot. I like talking. And one of the things I really wanted to do was to be able to listen to people, and not just listen to people because I want to hear. Just listen, just take the time to listen to people. I did it for a while and I kind of stopped it, but it's something that I want to pick up again. And this book has actually revitalized my my goal to be able to be a better listener, to listen to people around me, to listen to my children. And you know, the nature of what I do as well requires me to listen. But a lot of times we think we're listening, but we're not. We're trying to take the information that we need and filter everything that we don't need. But what listening actually does is you listen, you understand, you try to put yourself and see why that person is not understanding. It doesn't mean you're going to always agree with them, like the author said, but it's just you're trying to put yourself in their position and understand why they're not seeing what you are seeing. So that's my takeaway from the book. It's a very, very good book. It's a manual kind of book. So it's not a book that you sit down. We read it as part of a book club, but it's not a book that you necessarily have to sit down and finish reading at once. It's one that you can go back to. And not all of the rules are going to apply to you. Some are going to apply to you some more than the others. And another thing I thought I'd mention is that I don't agree with everything in the book. One thing I've come across is that it's not everything that you read in a book that you have to agree with. Just take the points that you think matter to you, that are pertinent to you, and what you think you can learn from it, and take it from there. So that's what those are my books of the month. I'm sorry they're not a lot, but as I said, it's not the number that matters, but it's not the quantity that matters versus the quality. Thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a lovely, lovely week, and December, because by the next time I'm going to do another video, it will be December. I can't believe it's December as well. Thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely, lovely week. Thank you. Bye-bye.